You're listening to the Deadly Uncle Podcast,
a safe space for deadly uncle conversations. Hey everybody, I hope you're ready for a great episode. We've got Robbie Daniels all the way from Morley, Alberta.
Robbie Daniels is one of the co-founders of the Sober Crew. The Sober Crew uses the drum, to stay sober, and they go to many community events and they support, along with walking around and making sure that the homeless are safe, and they have gloves, and they do many different things. They've even found a lost girl in Calgary. So
wow.
Okay. Well, I was the youngest of three. My mom raised us. She was a single parent. My dad was an alcoholic. And growing up, my mom was a really big part of my life. She was my rock and everything. And she raised us good. But when in my teenage years, I started to. Well, she married, and I wasn't the baby no more. So she married, and then I ended up. We moved. Well, we lived in Morley for good early years of my life, and in my teenage years, we moved to the city of Calgary, and that's where I started to get into trouble, with the law and stuff like that. And I just kept on going in and out of jail, starting from 13 right up to, like I was 30, 34, 35. And, it's just, I have a long record of a criminal record, and which I'm not proud of. But anyway, I started to I started to drink when I was 13. Do prescription pills when I was like 15, and then that went on until I was 23. Then I got introduced to crack cocaine, and at that time I found my mother of my kids. I had 3 kids, and there's we both struggled with addiction, and we fortunately we lost our kids, and I went on the streets and did all kinds of drugs, and right up till I was 30, like 38, 30, and then and when I was 38, my mom passed away, and which really devastated the family. And after that, we all, even my brothers and my sisters, they've never been on the street, and they went on the street, and being on crystal meth, coming off crystal meth is really, depression. The depression is like 10 times bad, and I was mourning for my mom at the same time, and I didn't eat for like 2 weeks at a time. I didn't eat for like a week, and I was staying up for like 2 weeks at a time, and sleep for an hour, stay up for another 2 weeks, and it did a lot of psychological damage to me. Psychosis was getting really bad. I was hearing voices all the time, and I was thinking people were gonna kill me and stuff, and until one day I had it, because I had one big bad psychosis where I woke up at the detox alpha house, and I didn't know where I was. I was just seeing all kinds of different, negative, spirits. And but there's a detox, like there's a mat, like a shelter area, and then the detox area. And I checked myself in the detox that day, and I've been in recovery since then. That's when we were in detox, I started to pick up the culture because I didn't know nothing about my culture. I they had sweat lodges there available every twice a week, so I took advantage of that, and I started, just smudging people there every morning, smudging there. There was a little courtyard there. We had a smoke pit, and I started to smudge people, and met three other people, and that's where Sober Crew was formed at the Alpha's Detox. When we got out of the detox, we still kept, hanging around, going to meetings and stuff like that, and ended up taking a workshop to make drums. So we made drums, and after we made the drums, we started to learn some songs off YouTube, and we learned them well enough to go sing on the streets for the homeless people. And we kept doing that, and eventually, uh, more people started to notice that, and people started to come around and learn, and then we ended up making our own outreach team, and where we go out, bring our drums, and we feed the homeless, and we bring out clothes and stuff like that. Even we're all ex addicts. We're all ex addicts, and we have experience. So we bring that also out to the streets, and most of us been on the street, and we know them. Those people on the street. I know most of them, all of them, and I used to use with them, and which makes me connect more, with them. And so I had that advantage. Eventually, I that they some outreach teams noticed what I was doing, and the Alpha House invited me to come over there for a meeting, and they offered me a job. This is like 2.5 years ago. So I've been working at the Alpha House where I started the Sober Crew. It's been 2.5 years now since and we're all indigenous, mainly mostly indigenous, and yeah, it's just a quick summary of
That's amazing. Like when you like first got to the city, all those years ago, what was your influences that you seen as a young man? Was it, like I know that we're all around the same age, so
yeah.
growing up as a teenager, kind of hip hop was something that I was into at that time. But what was some of your influences like as a man, as a young man, coming into the city?
Yeah, definitely it was the hip hop. It was the '90s, right? And
Yeah,
those were hit
yeah.
'90s and Tupac, all of that. Yeah, yeah, and all those gang movies. They really influenced me.
Mhm.
Influenced. That's what a big part of why I was going to do drugs because I thought it was cool. And yeah, there was a 95, '90s was a hip hop era, and that was my influence. And yeah, yeah,
When you first came, oh, sorry. When you first came to the city, you said you were about 13, I think. Is that what
yeah,
you, you're
yeah,
about 13?
yeah.
Was that hard for you to like try and find a community for yourself to come into? Like you came in obviously to a neighborhood that was probably very multiracial and there wasn't probably a ton of indigenous people there. What was that like for you? Like first coming into the city as a person coming off the reserve?
Well, it was at first it was kind of weird because you know growing up with reserve kids and then coming to urban Indians and meeting urban Indians is kind of yeah, it was different for sure. And my when I remember my I was trying to hang out with my older brother and my sisters, because they always had friends over, and they would drink, and that's part of how I started to drink because my older siblings were drinking with friends and relatives. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I started to drink, was with family members. It was like a little bit of friends, but a lot of times it was cousins, it was,
Yeah.
sisters, brothers, even my parents and stuff at the
Mine was
time.
with my dad for sure. The
Yeah.
first time I drank.
Yes, for sure, and I definitely remember those times as well. So, when you
Yeah.
came into the city, was there any programs that you knew of that were for Indigenous boys or men?
Mm, no, I was actually, I was first time I moved in the city was in Bonas, and that area at that time was pretty bad, and I was right away. Not even long after I moved into the city, I started to drink, and my criminal record started, and I've not I didn't get into programs until like I was like 18, unless yeah, unless you count juvenile. But yeah, um,
And so they only offered those programs once you were kind of incarcerated or in the system, type of thing. Those
yeah,
those programs were not really available for somebody who was just looking for them on like, say, on the streets, type of thing.
no, I actually went to school in the city at that same time too, but my I was too much. I was too much trying to act cool. I went to school drunk. I brought dope to school, trying to sell drugs, and I got caught and I got kicked out from my. I got kicked out, and I went to school and I broke in. I went to school in a stolen vehicle, and I rammed into a light pole there. I backed up into a light pole trying to peel out, and I got picked up there. And that's when I was grade 11, and that was the last time I actually kind of went to public school. Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah.
quite interesting. It's really interesting. What is the relationship between like the police and homeless people? What is your opinion, and what do you think can improve within the city of Calgary to make those things easier?
Uh, I think the police should be more educated, and understanding and considerate because you know I was up until I was like in my 40s with them, and I had no trust in the police until I met one cop, and you probably know which cop I'm talking about.
I think I do.
Yeah, and that he changed my perspective and kind of outlook on police. Plus, I'm getting older, and like my view on things is different now. And
Mm-hmm.
I got to understand that the addict mind is different from my mind right now. So there, and the police don't understand that it's addict mind, but the police mind is, I don't know. I'm observant, the way I look at things nowadays, and like I don't know.
So when you were living on the street, you you obviously had to make a transition back in, like, when you got your first place. How did that work? Like, how did you finally decide to get a new place and get off the street? And like, what were the chain of events that led to that for you?
Um, good question because growing up, I was so like I was so dependent on my mom. I was always really dependent on my mom. My mom paid for everything. She cleaned up. She bought food. She did everything, when she passed away, uh, and I realized I couldn't even take care of myself. But then I realized I wasn't a man yet because she was always there. Every time I was stranded, I pick up the phone and tell her to come pick me on. When she was passed away, like I didn't know. I couldn't even take care of myself. And then, I went to Dream Center and for 14 months, and there, like I learned how to have 3 square meals a day because I ate whatever I wanted. I came home at a certain time. I go to bed on a certain time, and I kept my room clean. And which my first house was actually 2.5 years ago, and when I moved there, I was scared. I was terrified, but I learned how to while I was in that sober living place. I learned the stuff. So when I in my new home, when I moved into my home, I kept everything clean. I got up, I live a certain way now.
Yeah.
Get up with the sun, offer tobacco, to the east, and because I have to, I have to live this certain way because I know, like I have addiction. That addiction spirit is sleeping inside of me, and it can wake up anytime,
Yeah.
So I understand that, and so I have to live this way in order for my sobriety to be solid,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
that's
go ahead.
amazing. No,
Sorry.
that's amazing. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, like, we've talked about this in a couple of the other podcasts. I worked with a housing first organization here in Edmonton for about 5 years, and I worked with people experiencing homelessness, and that's honestly one of the biggest obstacles for them is when they first move in to a new place is knowing how to keep a place, or knowing that you have to pay a bill at a certain time, and things that they never had to think about when they were on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And it is overwhelming for some of them when they first get off the street because some of them are still in active addiction, and they're trying to, battle that and then learn how to be, self-sufficient on their own. And
Mm-hmm.
there's got to be, I'm not saying it's a wrong way, but there's got to be better ways we can do this to help our people that are struggling on the street to get out of those situations if that's what they really want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really, I was fortunate enough that, I had I was, I was leaning, my friends kind of helped me out because I had no support from my family. My reserve is like only 45 minutes away, and they knew where I hung out. And none of them, in those few years, none of them came by, say, here's a few bucks, or here, come sleep for a bit. So that's when I decided, it hit me, that helped me though, to make me decide that, it's up to me, that nobody's gonna do it for me,
Yeah.
So yeah, I made those steps to better
And that's a
myself.
truly powerful revelation right there. If somebody that's struggling, that, you kind of, you realize, the only way this is going to change is if I start the change. People
Right.
are out there that can help you, but you have to be the one that makes that first step and say, hey, I want to live differently.
You
I don't
know,
want to live this way anymore.
exactly. It sounds like a cliche and all that, but every second that you have on this earth is a chance to change your life. And you're an example of that. And we've had many men on this program here that have been homeless, that are now running businesses, that are now have community programs like yourself, that are doing wonderful things that connect to the community. And I think
Mhm.
that's so important, and it's about that recovery. And so your group started to grow, and I think a big part of that was the drumming and
Yeah.
the ceremony that you guys put on as well, like, or that you attend and that you're a part of. And
Mhm.
so how important was that to you and your sobriety, was having that drum and that ceremony in your life?
Well, the drum is a very big part of the group. And as you see, the logo, the drum is on the logo, and it's very important. It saved our lives. It saved many of our friends' lives, and and most of them, like a lot of them, didn't have no clue about their culture, but we ended up going to culture, and then as we went, and there's other people that offer us to go to their ceremony, and that's how Creator helped us in that way. And we went up north to go build sun dances, and I went to Morley to go starve, to go fast for food. I fasted for 4 days, 4 nights for 2 years in a row, and that spirit and that drug, that crystal meth, is so dark, man. It's so like if it's so dark that it's really hard to shake off. There's a lot of ceremonies, but it's hard to shake off.
Such a
You know, yeah,
powerful drug, eh?
yeah, it's really powerful. It's
And it
demonic.
takes many of our people, like so many people suffer from that addiction in our community.
For real,
So,
like even like like men, like I know for a long time, they're masculine men, and they even turn them into homos, and like I don't know, it makes it really powerful drug,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that I do want to bring up and talk to you about is the recovery and the forgiveness that comes with that. You guys have members that are that may have done crimes in the community and that type of thing. And so, how hard is it to be accepted with some of your members that have done those things? And what's the recovery, do you think, with the community involving all of that?
Well, you know, there's like I know there's a few members, that like have done bad things in it, and even murder and stuff like that. And I've thought, it's not for me to judge them, like that's what with sober crew is like. You don't even need application, or like um if you just want to get sober, you need help, come, come, you don't have to walk the red road alone, because we can walk together. Um, you know, for me, when I was hanging on the street, when I first got on the street, I had many friends. Right up until my last peak of my homeless, I had nobody to hang out. Nobody wanted to hang out with me because one of my things I was doing is I was dumpster diving. I was in alleys and I was dumpster diving. I was hearing voices and all that stuff, and nobody wanted to hang out with me. And I was alone, and then that brought depression and loneliness, and but that creator turned all that around. And once even my drug dealers come up to me and ask me for help now. Hey, my old drug dealers, and the ones that laughed at me are kind of looking up to me. But it creator's powerful like that. He switched, turned everything around, and
Mm,
And
yeah.
that's amazing what you said about how you've turned things around. But how do we turn, like, you don't judge people, but say somebody judges people in your group? How do we convince the community that people can change, like, and can be accepted again, no matter what crimes they did in the past? Like, this is something that we've talked about on here before, is because we truly believe that people can change and people can do better things, but not everybody in the community obviously carries that same opinion, right? And you're always going to have haters or people that say bad things. But how do we reconcile that, and how do we make everybody feel comfortable, I guess, is the question.
Well, that is really tough because we can't tell people to change. Can't tell
Yeah.
people. Some are very sick. That can they don't have the right mind thinking, and they like growing up. I was told, you don't laugh at people, don't do this and that. Some people are not are brought up with that, and
Yeah.
just I would say just keep going. Whatever they say, just turn the other cheek. you know, yeah.
Yeah,
And I guess that's
it's
all you can do, right? Is just be
exactly,
yourself and try and do your best every day. Like,
you
You
know,
know,
and I,
there's times where there's some, I got there's backlashes towards, I mean, stuff that was said to the group and stuff like that, and on social media, and like there's, but my old me wanted to, go on there, start, like saying, talking back, but like for me, as I have to, as I'm trying to change my ways, I'm trying to change things the way I handle things, So
for sure, I think like honestly, this isn't over with this subject. I think that what would be good is to have almost a forum with some elders, with some members of the community that feel that that feel threatened in some sort of way, and say, look, we have gentlemen that are bettering themselves, that are sober now, that are making changes, that are doing good. So how do we get past that, and how do we still accept them into the community, and also with some of the victims or people that feel like they're victims to feel safe as well, because that's some of the subjects that I'm seeing. And every situation is definitely different. And what I'm seeing with you guys, with all your videos, with everything that you're posting out, is that you're becoming a very positive community. That you guys throw on these events that not only include healing yourselves, but you actually go out beyond that and actually help the people on the homeless. You also bring out your drums to the missing and murdered women events and different community events, and share the strength of the drum, share the strength of those songs in there. So I think that everything that you guys are doing is wonderful and amazing, even though that you have some of those people that are messaging you and hating on some of the crew, and those past things that basically made you guys who you are today. I think that that won't hold you back, and there's a way that we have to come together and address that, as we just lost our guest here.
ooh, shoot. He must be having spotty internet because
Yeah.
he was kind of chopping it out. Just see if he comes
We'll
back.
pause her.
Oh, I think I gotta let him back in, maybe. Oh no, he's still blank on the bottom, but
Yeah.
I may have to. I'm not gonna pause it because.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Awesome. Welcome back.
Can you hear us, or are you still paused? I think he's still paused.
Here, I'll just get up and go click on it and see maybe if that'll change it. No, he's blank when I put him in there. Maybe message him on.
Okay, let's see. I'll see. Try click on again, eh?
Yeah, because we have almost 30 minutes already.
Okay.
But it'd be nice to get a little bit more. He must be having like bad internet issues.
hello.
Oh, there we are.
There we go.
That happens with connections and that. We'll just wait till Trent sits down, and I'll continue my point there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. From everything that I see that you guys are doing, you're going above and beyond. Helping each other with the drum, and helping each other as a community, being sober. Taking that next step out, and doing food drives and coat drives, and putting shoes on the homeless, and all those things. And I just think it's amazing, and I hope that we get a chance to sit down with some of those members one day in the community that maybe feel threatened by some of your members, and feel, how do we heal that? How do we fully accept how do we fully accept each other as a community? Because we know that this all stems from one major event that happened to all of us as Indigenous people, and that's us going to the residential school. You know, like I truly believe that that's what caused a lot of addictions, caused a lot of homelessness, caused a lot of mental issues, and people not being self-aware with culture awareness and all those things. Like, I don't know my language. I got to learn. I got to go back and learn my language, and I think that's all a part of that. So I really commend you for the work that you're doing. I'm proud to see that you guys have, used the drum to keep sober, to keep in the community, and to keep that power going. You're always going to have haters in anything you do.
Yeah.
Even this podcast here, people might be threatened that it's directed towards men, but there's just such a lack of programming for Indigenous boys that I think it was time for us to make that space for each other. So
Yeah.
just congratulations on all the work you do, and don't let the haters ever get to you, in any sort of way, man.
Yeah.
And do you guys have any events coming up that you're involved in that you'd like to talk about at all, or?
Well, we're having a Halloween dance on the 30th, at the Banff Trail Community Association Hall, and yeah, and we have every second Thursdays we do patrol, and it'll be next Thursday. It'll be next patrol.
How can people join in to help or donate, or how do they get in touch with you if they want to, say, donate some clothes or food or whatever to what you guys are doing with your work with the homeless?
We post on we post on the Facebook page the date of the patrol, where to meet on the patrol, and where there's a website there that we it's on a poster where you can donate, and the address where to drop off stuff.
Yeah, and I'd just like to remind everybody out there that it is getting cold.
Yeah,
And people are going to need, gloves and toques and coats. If you have any other things that you can donate, get in touch with these people in Calgary because they're doing important work for our brothers and sisters that don't have a lot. So, yeah, get in touch if you can.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, it's really important to keep that community going for sure. Yeah, that's 100%. And so, thank you so much, for being on here. Say hello to all the brothers and sisters that you have in the crew, and we commend you here at the Uncle Deadly podcast, or the Deadly Uncle podcast. Sorry,
And Robbie, you're a deadly uncle.
yeah, you're a deadly uncle, and you will have a deadly uncle hat that will be coming to you. They are in the process right now.
Yeah, it's.
I found some at Lids, by the way.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, they were like $500. Anyways, awesome. Yeah, man, they're gonna be good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much for talking with us, and it was nice meeting you, Robbie, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice
keep
to
up the
meet you.
good work. Oh yeah, I just want to ask you one more question before we let you go. We're
Yeah.
asking everybody this question: how important do you think it is for Indigenous people, of all people, not just for men, to have a safe space within our city limits to be able to pray, like a Palm Acres? We've all seen what Palm Acres is, but not a treatment center. Somewhere in our city where we can have sweats, where we can have indoor ceremonies, where we can have funerals for people, weddings, all kind of things
Just like
for
a church does, right?
Indigenous people, like our community centers out on our land. How important do you think is it for every major city across Canada to have one of these centers?
Oh man, like that'd be so awesome if they can, because like when we go out and go to sweat lodges, a lot of people from that city want to add, they want to come. They ask if where can we find a sweat lodge, and one of my things that I'm hoping for in the future is to get a van so I can take, and go to ceremonies. But It'd be a lot easier for if it was in in the city,
Yeah.
You betcha, brother. It's
Yeah,
time for us, even as an indigenous people, to have the mentality that Calgary is our land.
yeah,
Calgary should be this place that we should be able to have. Edmonton should be the place that we should be able to have our
Regina,
ceremonies.
Ed, all of
Yeah,
them.
all the major cities. That's all of part of our land as indigenous people.
yeah.
Just like non-indigenous people have churches, it's time for us to be able to have a place to pray within the city limits. And I also see that a lot of the elders are talking about the change with medicine, and talking about meth and crack, because the old ways, the some of the old traditional ways, where you had to wait 4 days to be able to smudge, to be able to touch any sort of medicines. But to ask somebody who's a full blown crackhead or who's fully on those drugs to wait 4 days is basically impossible. So I hope to see that those people have access to at least the smudge, because maybe even just the smell of that smudge might be able to save their lives just for one night.
Hmm. Like when I was when I first did my outreach, when I was going out with my drum, I asked an elder first, and then like, can I smudge these people that are under the influence? And he told me, like, you smudge them, you hold it, you smudge them, and let them smudge them.
Mm,
And then it had a really big response. People were, those people were crying. Like
yes.
they were crying. And I remember this one lady. She seen me walk, like she was like quite a ways away, and then when she seen me with my smudge walk, and she started crying from over the way, far away, until she got
Wow.
to me, and it helped them a lot. But yeah,
That's beautiful to hear, man. That is so
yeah,
beautiful to hear. And that makes total sense, to have somebody who's not under the influence, kind of like an elder, somebody who's safe, being able to touch the smoke and being able to brush it towards. That totally makes a lot of sense. Thank you
yeah,
for answering that, because that's one of the questions that I had. I was wondering what was happening with that. So amazing, man. Yeah.
yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah,
Right on, brother. Well, thank you for being on the show today,
yeah.
and continue the awesome work. And we shall see you. We'll see you on the trail.
Yeah. One thing, sobriety is decolonization. Recovery is decolonization. Yeah,
Right on, brother.
yeah. Thank you.
See you later, brother.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Deadly Uncle Podcast.
A safe space for deadly uncle conversations.